Thank you so much for buying our budget tracker. So today I'll take you through how to populate it. So let's start. So just an overview of how this spreadsheet works. Where you see the gray areas, please do not edit any of the gray areas, and this is because these cells are protected and they have inbuilt formulas that would automatically just populate. So you only key in the numbers in the white cells in these sections. Okay, so let's start from here. Let's say you want to change your name from Jane to Peter. So you go there and you change your name to Peter, and automatically this changes to Peter. Then if you want to change the month, let's say you are budgeting for February, you just go click on the drop down, then select February. And this will also automatically change this to February. Then if you want to change your currency, let's say I want to change from pounds to, let's say, Kenya shillings, you put that, and that goes to Kenya shillings. We can see that. If you want to change again to dollars, you just go enter the dollar sign and you'll be able to change the currency. So you don't need to do anything on the cash flow summary. So let's start at the income section. So if you want this budget to really help you, you need to take time to think about what is how much do you earn on a monthly basis, what is your ideal budget. Then after that, you'll be able now to chart it using your actuals. So let's start with the budget. Let's say on a monthly basis, let's say you earn a salary. You earn a salary of around 70,000. So you go in and put in the salary, right? Then on top of that, you also have other income. Maybe you have side hustles. So about your other income. And other income basically maybe brings you around 10,000. So you put 10,000. Okay, so now you've populated all the income that you earn. So if you have other streams of income, just populate them here and put the budget. That is your expected amount. Then if you go to the debt category, so here you put on the debts that you have. For example, you could have car loan. You have a car loan. And the car loan on a monthly basis, let's say you pay 20,000. So you put 20,000 there. Then on top of that, you have other loans. Let's say you have a credit card loan. So you put your credit card. And on a monthly basis, let's say you pay credit card of 1,000 Kenya shillings. So you put 1,000. And let's say lastly, you have M-Shwari. That's another loan. So you put M-Shwari. And let's say your M-Shwari, for this month, you're meant to pay 700. So you put your 700 there. So remember, at this point, we are only populating the budget, which is the expected for February. Also, another thing that you need to do, you don't have to do it, but if you want, you can just click on the ticks to ensure that you've entered the budget. Just click there, click, and click. Okay, so here you enter all the debts that you have. Then, now let's go to the expenses. So for expenses, you now sit back and have a think about what are the categories of the expenses that you pay on a monthly basis. Let's say on a monthly basis, you pay things related to your home. So I would call that housing expenses. And the budget for housing expenses is basically if I put, let's say if you pay your rent of like 15,000, then you pay bills for like 5,000, then let's say, you pay bills for 5,000, then I would say the budget is 20,000. Right? Then again, you have other things such as subscriptions. And here is where you put your subscriptions. For example, you could have Netflix, right? You have Netflix, you have Spotify, you have gym subscriptions, and let's say all your subscriptions, they normally add up to 10,000 on average on a monthly basis, so you push 10,000. You can see here it's automatically updates. So here you categories. Let me add one last category. Let's say you also pay for insurance. And all the different types of insurance that you pay at different month, whether it's medical insurance, home insurance, or all that, they all add up to, let's say, 5,000 on a monthly basis. So you put it there. So remember, the budget is just an estimate of how much you spend per each category on a monthly basis. So it's just to give you a view of how much you're meant to spend. Okay, savings. Let's say now you're saving. So for the saving, you put the different categories of your savings. Let's say you're saving for buying a home. So you say home. So you're saving for home and you're budgeting on saving around, let's say 5,000 a month to buy that house. You put it there. Then let's say the other thing that you're saving for is retirement. And let's say retirement, you want to save, let's say, 10% of your salary or whatever percentage. Let's say you save around 7,000 for retirement every month. You put it there. Then let's say monthly, you're also saving for wedding. You have a wedding coming up and you want to save for your wedding. And let's say you budgeted to save 2,000 each month. So you put your 2,000 there. So now you can see that you've populated all the budget, all the expected amounts for that month in terms of based on the different categories. So I've populated the expected income for February. I've populated the expected debt that I will pay in February. And I've also populated the expected expenses per the categories. And I've also populated the savings. So the next thing that you do is that now in February, so normally I would advise that you do this at the beginning of the month before you get your paycheck, or immediately when you get a paycheck, you do this. So the earlier you do this, the better, because it's going to give you a view of how much you're meant to spend. So now during February, what you do is that you go in and key your actuals. Let's say in February, the actual salary that came in was 70,000. So I got 70,000 in my bank account. So that's fine. You can see now the income was populated. Now for other income, I was expecting to get 10,000, but ideally you got less. You got 8,000. So you populate that as well. And you can see that you populated that as other income. Then the other thing that you do is that for the debt, something else happened with the debt. And for the debt, the car loan, you are expected to pay 20,000. But you say for that month, I paid 20,000. So you put 20,000 as well. So you put it there. Then you can see now these are started populated. Then the other thing is a credit card. You paid a credit card. And let's say you paid 800. So you paid 800 as the minimum amount. Then let's say for M-Shani, you paid a full amount because, okay, you put that. And again, this populates this balance. You can see your total debt and expenses have started increasing and you have a remaining balance of 56,500. Now let's move to housing. Okay, let's move to expenses. So for expenses, you don't need to populate anything here. So for expenses, you track every single expense, and how you track it is you track it from here, right? Because ideally you want to know your individual expenses to be able to know where you spend the most, right? So what you do, you come enter the dates. Let's say on the 1st of February 2026, you paid rent. And rent would fall under housing. Again, you can put any category that you want. For now, put housing. Then you write here, this is the rent. You put it there at the beginning, and the amount that you paid for rent was basically 15,000. So you put your 15,000 there. And what you can see here is this has automatically updated based on this. So the expense category will update based on the expense tracker. Again, let's say on the 2nd of February 26, you paid for something else, right? Let's say you paid for subscriptions, right? And let's say you have Netflix. So you paid Netflix, and you paid, let's say, 600 for Netflix. Again, you can see now subscription has updated. Now let's say on the 5th of February 2026, again you paid housing, you paid a house expense, and that was maybe your electricity bill. And for that month you pay the electricity back 2,000. You put that, and again you can see that your housing category has increased. Then lastly, let's say on the 15th of February, you paid for, let's say, medical insurance. So you have medical, so you paid medical insurance. And let's say on a maxi basis, you pay around 2,000. So you put 2,000 bill, and you can see automatically your 2,000 has increased. So if I wanted to pay for something else, let's say I wanted to pay for transport, right? But if I look at my expense category, I can't see transport here, right? So I go here and I add that as a category, transport. And let's say the transport for the month, I normally budget 3,000. So you put it here, and once you put your budget, your category at the budget here, automatically, if I go to here, I can see that transport has populated here. So let's say so anytime you want to add an expense here, but you can't find the category, you go back to this expense view and you add the category that you want, and automatically you'll be able to put it here and add the expense. Let's say for transport, you took an Uber, right? You took Uber here and it was around 500. So you put it there, and that was like under, let's say, 70. So you can see that now transport has updated to 500. Okay, so that's how you populate the expense section. So in the comment, you just add anything you want to note about the expense. Okay, now let's move to the final bit, which is the savings. So we already populated the savings. We now, in terms of what we expected to save in that month. So now we go in and populate the actual. So for home, you had budgeted to save 5,000, but ideally maybe you saved 4,000. So you put 4,000 boo, and that automatically starts updating the chart. Then for retirement, you budgeted 7,000, but in that month, you went ahead and did 8,000 for retirement, right? You can see that now. That's populated. Then for wedding, you budgeted to save 2,000, but let's say in that month, you saved 5,000. Again, that's populated. So if you look at the dashboard, you can see that you had a total income of 78,000. Your total expense and savings, your total expense and debt was 41,600. Your total saving was 17,000. So the remaining balance that you have is 19,400, right? And if you look at this chart, you can see your income, which is the blue section. Then you can see your debt, which is the blue section, your expense and the savings. So this helps you to know, you got a breakdown of how you're spending and how you're saving, and this shows you the expense breakdown. So if you look at this, the biggest expense is actually the housing. This is where the majority of your, or the biggest chunk of your money is going through. It's going to savings. Then the second bit is basically your insurance. So you can see the green part is insurance. So this just gives you that overview. And the first bit is basically your budget versus actual. So it shows you, let's say for income, you have budgeted 80,000, but the income that came in was less than that.